Hello everybody, it's David R. Becker here again with BeckerArt, and here today to give you a little tip on how to use transfer paper. Transfer paper is a paper that has a residue on it that will, when you trace your picture, it'll trace it onto your watercolor paper. And there's a bunch of different types of transfer paper, and I'm going to show you today how you can use that and what kinds are available to you. Just go right down here to the tabletop to just get you going here. So there's two different kinds that I like to show people for watercolor. And one of them is this, it's called transfer paper, and this is by Jack Richardson. And they have it in a roll, and I think it also comes in sheets. But this is a 24-inch wide roll with 24 feet, so you can actually trace some really big stuff. And why do you want to trace? And I just do this for my beginning students because it takes a while to learn how to draw. And if I'm teaching you how to do a watercolor, I kind of want you to learn how to do watercolor on a nice drawing. And sometimes a lot of the beginners don't know how to draw really well, and that takes time to learn how to do that. So what I do is I suggest that they use the transfer paper, and it makes it easier for them then to learn how to do the watercolor if you have a nice drawing down, because you really have to do the number one thing, and that is drawing, making it look good. So like I said, there's a one transfer paper, and this is more of a this is not a graphite. This is some kind of substance they have on it that is not erasable. Then there's the cerl, you can see right here on the side here, that there's other transfer paper, and that's a graphite paper. That is a paper that you can erase. Both used the same way, but you cannot erase this one up here. The transfer paper you can't erase. The cerl is graphite paper, which you can erase, but there's goods and bads about both of them. One thing, if you can erase it, then when you're doing a wash, it's a lot of times the cerl will disappear when you do a wash in watercolor. And also it gets really messy because it's graphite, and it gets on when you're pressing down like this. When you're pressing down, you have your arm on it, a lot of stuff gets onto your paper. So that's for the graphite paper. This is more of a transfer paper, and it's some kind of, I don't know, it's like what they used to have it, oh boy, what are those things called? But it's non-erasable. So when you're putting it down, which a lot of times doesn't really matter because you're covering up that with the things anyways with the watercolor, and it also depends on how hard you press on it. So the way to use this is, like I said, it comes in roller sheets, and make a sheet out of it, and you can make it the size of your picture. And the first thing you'll need is something to trace. And so that's like the first thing you got to do is, so you can take and make a copy of on a black and white, on the black and white printer. You can just make a copy of things, and then use that, or you can sketch it as tracing paper and draw it first, and then take this and redraw it again on top of that. And so there's a couple different ways you can use the drawing. Now the drawing has to be the size of whatever the painting is going to be, the photograph. So when I trace this is the size of the painting. So I suggest a lot of my students to go to a printer to get like 11 by 17, the bigger version. Like if you're going a big sheet of paper like this, so you can see this only covers half of it. So if you're doing a bigger painting, you're gonna have to get a bigger space. Or some printers will let you divide up your picture into two, and it'll crop it for you and stuff, and so you can do and just paste them together, tape them together. But anyways, to start out, what to do is you take the transfer paper or graphite paper, they both are the same. Find out which side is the part that is going to have to be put down onto the paper. There's so many of us that have done it wrong, where we put it on here, we trace it, and we trace it to the back of the paper. And you don't want to do that, so that's what happens if you go like this. So if I go like this, a little line, see, it gets in the back of there. Because I have the black part, the part that's the graphite or the transfer paper, that has to go down onto the paper. So with the transfer paper, it's usually darker. You can tell this side's less dark, and it's shiny. And so this side goes up against your picture. The dark side, and you can tell I've used this one quite often. This one I take to my classes and I let them use them. So see how many times I've used this? A lot of times, or actually I haven't used it, but my students have used it. But it still works perfectly fine. You can use this for a lot of times, a lot of paintings. So I put that down onto the paper, any kind of paper. It works on even Yupo. You can put it on Yupo paper, on any kind of watercolor paper, and then you take your image and you either put it down on there. And a lot of people like to tape it, tape it on the top so you can look at it. Because one thing you definitely want to do is try it and then look right away if it's working. And that will make it so that you don't ever do it in the back of your paper, which many of us do. And again, if you want to do it on like a transfer paper or a transfer paper, I mean, a lot of people like to draw their painting, draw it like maybe it's a photograph, and they draw it and then they sketch it on there. And you can do that with tracing paper. So that like if it's tracing paper, you can trace this and put it on there. And again, being able to draw everything completely by hand is a great thing. But if you're not getting it looking good, then you're not going to get a good watercolor. No matter how good you are with the actual watercolor part, it's not going to be good if you don't have a good drawing. And so this is one way of doing it. And I know some people think that this is cheating, but for me, it's to teach people how to learn how to do the watercolor, and then also give yourself a good drawing. And then little by little, you'll have to take some drawing lessons, and it always helps to have drawing the number one thing in your arsenal to do. So but you can't learn how to draw just by instantly in a week or so, or even in a class. So that's how I have people use transfer paper. Anyways, so I like to use a pen, and a lot of times people like to even use a colored pen, just so they can see where they went. Because if you use a sharp pencil, that's fine. But then you're drawing, and you see it, but then you have to sharpen it. And here with the pen, you'll see it, and if it's a blue pen, you'll see blue in there. So you just go in here, and again, I would tape it down. Some people like to tape it down. We tape around right at the moment, so I'm not going to tape it down. And so we're just going to kind of go in here. And when you're tracing the image, trace the outline of the object. And like here, this light in here, I can put, and when we did this painting not too long ago, a couple weeks ago in my Thursday videos, what I do is I do the one side that's outside, and then what I do is I put the masking fluid on the inside. So I do the outer edge. I just trace the outer edge. If you do every little shadow, then you're gonna get too many lines in there. So I did a couple of lines, and the first thing I'm gonna do is turn it over and see if it's working. And there you can see the line. I just put it down there, and it's not too dark. It's just perfect. So I'll go down here real quickly and just show you how fast. And like I said, I just do one side. I don't do shadows and such. And here she has her strap on there. And a lot of times you don't want to put a black line somewhere where it's going to be white. Where you need it to be white. Like here, it's okay to have a black line because this part is going to be black. But let's say here, this is white on white. And if I put a black line there, there's a line in the photo. But if I don't want to put that line in there, just do that afterwards with a pencil so you can erase it again. So anything that's up against a dark object, here, this is dark, that'll be fine because we can then hide that line that we're doing. So anything that's in the white, any lines that are in the white area that you, like here on her dress, there's a couple of little lines in there, but I'm not going to do that because then the line will show way too much. So I just make sure that you only do it where there's something that will be dark over it, so that'll hide kind of the line that you're doing. And so I'm just going to go through here, and I get the outer edge. Here's the white dress, and you can get the outer edge really nicely. And then you can also put masking fluid down afterwards. And so here, just real quickly, I'm just going to do this real quick so you can see. I don't want to spend a lot of time. This is just drawing. Again, I don't draw two lines there for the white. Just remember that, because if you do two, then you're going to have that little line there. If you just put the one line, knowing that's the outer edge, if you always know it's the outer edge, then you can put the masking fluid on the inner side of the object. If you're like there is her feet, I don't have to do this side. I can just do the one side, and then there's a little bit of masking fluid there. The lesser of the lines, the better. When it comes to like if it's going to show later on the lines. Some people like the lines showing, others like to erase them. Like what I just did there, that was wrong because now there's gonna be lines there, and there really isn't lines. It's just shadow. I did it on purpose, right? Yeah, right. Okay, so we're gonna go down here to a few more things and just let's take a look. So I missed a few things. Now, sometimes some of the students do that where they take it down and they have it taped down and they look and they can look, but if they don't have it taped down or they take it away and they miss something, it's very easy to go back, and all you do is you kind of line it up like this, line it up, just go underneath and kind of line it up again. And I always go like this, so you kind of take it away, take it and put it on there. And then hold it there and slide the paper back underneath it. So if you feel like you missed something, like I missed a dress here, but this is light on light, so sometimes I like to keep it where I would just do it then later with a pencil. Because afterwards, you can also go back in with a pencil, regular pencil, and then just finish the work. Like if you feel like you can do the regular parts, if you got most of it on there, or if you're changing something, then use a regular pencil, because then you can erase that. This I can't. This transfer paper you can't erase. The graphite paper this one over here, the Ceril, that one you can erase because it's graphite. It's basically graphite put onto a sheet of paper, which, by the way, you can also make your own graphite paper if you are not out in the store. And if you have a nice ebony pencil or a lead pencil that's a really wide one, you can take and rub it over the back of a object. So like if I take a pencil, you can just rub it across the back, and this is not a black one, but just to show you what I'm talking about. You just put it on the back of the paper, and then really mop the back of the paper really strong, and so you're making your own graphite paper. So that's possible too if you don't actually have a transfer paper or the Ceril graphite paper. Transfer and graphite, remember that. You can make your own graphite paper by just drawing it on there, and then laying it flat here again, and just go ahead and draw it. But you do need to have the size of the picture that you start out with, so that you can draw it on there. And so now I have the drawing on there, and like I said, you cannot erase these. Actually, erase it a little bit, so you can get a little bit of the paper, but it will still stay there. You know, so that's one of those things that the graphite paper you can't erase, the transfer paper you can't erase, the graphite paper you can. All right, so that's how to use your transfer paper, and I would suggest using transfer paper when you are looking for a good drawing and you're not that great a drawer. Especially if you're taking a class for watercolor and you're trying to learn how to do the watercolor, get some good drawing on there. That's the number one thing you want to do, is make sure that you get the drawing good. And so take your time, and in this video, if you go down below, there's links to the product, this thing on Amazon. You can get this transfer paper on Amazon on the link that's going to be in the video below on YouTube here. And so next time you're at one of my Thursday classes and you download one of the pictures and you're not that great a drawer, transfer it to your paper so you have a beautiful, beautiful drawing. And you'll be surprised, you'll even have a different painting. Even though we all have the same drawings, a lot of times in my classes, we have a different watercolor feel to it, because everybody has a little bit different way of doing their watercolor. All right, so thanks for watching, and we'll see you in our next